How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm probably right down the street from you, unless you're not in the city, but I'm in the city.
I'm not in the city. I am actually, I'm in Mexico City.
Dude, even better. That's my favorite place, man. The food there is insane.
I'm here for another project that we'll kind of touch on also. But
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
so again, before we get started, I just want to, I think the last time I showed you WSC Sports technology was probably a couple years ago already. And
Oh, yeah. Oh,
we,
yeah.
we've advanced so much since the last time I showed you.
Sure.
So do you happen to speak Mandarin?
No, but I wish I did.
如果继续和我聊天，因为现在你在家里讲流利的中文，
真的吗？真的吗？那这对配音、体育赛事之类的东西有好处吗？这样你就可以让它全球化，你懂我意思吗？
是的，绝对是的。那么我再给你一个例子，你会说德语吗
不会。
？Okay, also jetzt sprechen Sie Deutsch.
Wirklich? Schön.
Sie sprechen.
Kann es kaum erwarten, das in der Wiederholung zu hören.
Das wird richtig großartig. Und ich denke, ich kann Ihnen den Clip schicken, nachdem wir gesprochen haben, denn Harry Kane, natürlich der große Star aus der Premier League, spielt jetzt in der Bundesliga. Und wenn er der Star des Spiels ist und Sie ihn interviewen, spricht er auch kein Deutsch und es wird sofort in seine Stimme auf Deutsch übersetzt, wissen Sie, während der Pressekonferenz danach.
Wow, das ist wirklich verrückte Technologie.
So yeah, well,
That's awesome.
it'll be a hoot to hear you speak in both Mandarin and German.
You gotta send me that, dude. That'll be awesome.
Yeah. So here we go. I'm going to do a little intro and then we'll get right into it. Today's guest has one of the most unique journeys in sports. Josh Booty was a two-sport star who went straight from high school to the Florida Marlins as a first-round MLB draft pick, then returned to college to quarterback LSU before making it to the NFL with the Seahawks, Browns, and Raiders. Along the way, he's experienced the highs and challenges of competing at the highest levels in both baseball and football. Now he's channeling those experiences into his new venture, Bula, which is about reimagining how fans engage with sports. We'll talk about his career, this year's MLB postseason, the start of the college and NFL seasons, and how technology is reshaping the way athletes and fans connect. Josh Booty joins me on the podcast. Josh, welcome.
Thank you, brother. It's always good to first of all hear your voice, and I can't believe I'm in New York City and you're not here, because I would have loved to have spent some time with you as well here. But no, thank you for having me. And
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of crazy that we met almost 13 years ago when we were filming down in Vero Beach, the home of the former home of the Dodgers, Los Angeles Dodgers spring training. We were filming the next knuckler for MLB Network. You won that competition. At the time, there was only one knuckleball pitcher in the league, and that style of pitcher was kind of like dying out. And when we discovered that the throwing motion of a quarterback kind of mimicked the throwing motion of a knuckleballer, we thought we could train elite level quarterbacks to become knuckleballers in the pros, and you won. Of course, you had a little bit of baseball experience, playing third base, but you had never really thrown a knuckleball before then.
no, we had always messed around with it, shagging balls in the outfield. Just messing around with the pitchers more than anything, probably just boredom, between games and during BP and stuff like that. So I had grown up playing a lot of baseball and thrown the knuckleball a lot, but just never thrown to hitters. I just thrown it with my buddies out in the outfield, shagging balls or just messing around, right? Playing pepper and stuff. And so, yeah, I had a little bit of leg up because I was the only football player that had played baseball at a really, really high level, or the only one to really play baseball at all, I think, in the pros or anything like that. So a leg up on them on that deal. But R.A. Dickey had won the Cy Young Award, and that gave you guys the idea to have the first ever reality show on Major League Baseball Network. And of course, I was definitely in as soon as I was contacted about doing the show, because I love competition, much less being on TV doing a real reality show with the network. And to create friendships like I have with you that have lasted over the years, and Doug Flutie and some of the guys that were a part of that show, means more to me than even winning the show. So I'm glad I got the chance to win the show and go to spring training throwing a knuckleball. And I've never been so nervous in my whole life as I was throwing a knuckleball against the Giants when I was with the Diamondbacks a month after the show. I was not prepared for that, but I was prepared to be on a baseball diamond, but I wasn't prepared to throw a knuckleball in front of fans. So I was so nervous, but you got me into that. I can't believe you got me into this shit. So I was hating you there for a few minutes when I was out there pitching against the Giants and Bruce Bochy's World Series defending World Series team. But anyways, that was a fun time that we got to share. And like I said, these lifelong friendships now are what means the most that came out of it. And I love sports, so baseball's very dear to me.
Yeah, well, I think I saw a couple of your spring training starts with the Diamondbacks, and you did get that funky movement, knuckleball movement, a couple times down the plate.
There wasn't nobody hitting it out of the park. It was just a matter of if I was going to throw strikes or not. I don't want to walk the bases juiced, and then have the manager looking at me like I'm the idiot.
Exactly.
It
Yeah,
was
well, you gotta
Kirk Gibson. It was Kirk Gibson, by the way, and old Gibby. I didn't want to look over there and watch him do this.
you survived, and, I know I think you actually really kind of impressed people, so congratulations on not only winning that competition, but, having the guts to stand up on the mound against real Major League Baseball hitting. That was really impressive. But, kind of I wanted to really start with the early years in your career journey because you've had one of the most fascinating multi-sport journeys of your generation, and not a lot of people know about it. I mean, I think that people in the sports world know about it, but whenever I talk to people about you and your journey, and their jaw just drops. They're going, "What?" They really don't understand it. So, you were one of the top high school recruits in both baseball and football. What was it like being in the spotlight as a teenager?
Shreveport, Louisiana, I'll take you back there where I grew up. And there was my dad and another gentleman by the name of Denny Duron had started a high school and called it Evangel Christian. So it was a Christian private school in Shreveport. And we competed against all the big boys in both sports and baseball and football. And when they launched the high school, I was in eighth grade. So there wasn't a big class ahead of me, classes ahead of me in terms of upperclassmen, juniors and seniors that were going to play, been there, paid their dues. Like we were all young kids and we were going to have to go compete with a new school. And my freshman year, I started at quarterback and we had 30 something players and we're playing teams that had 100, on the sideline.
Right.
So I had to grow up fast or I was scared to death half the time, and I was trying to manage that situation as a quarterback. And I had a really good arm. My dad was a college quarterback, so my dad always liked passing offenses. So they put together a passing offense to where we were in the shotgun every play, and it was before. It was like when high schools were just running the football, 3 yards, cloud of dust, the wing tee, all that stuff, option. That was all big back in the late '80s, and we were playing these Texas schools, and they were running right down your throat. They didn't they play action pass off of the wing tee stuff, and
Yeah.
the option offenses, and it was just easier to coach that at the high school level back then, and coaches hadn't figured it out. We figured out how to go five wides, no huddle, wristbands. We were the first one to really ever do the wristbands. I mean, colleges and pros, they all do it now, but we were doing it in the very beginning, and we went into
Really?
this 9 yard shotgun, and we had some fun with it, and we started breaking records when I was in junior and senior year, and started winning games and getting notoriety, USA Today, and coaches started recruiting me. And I grew up and I was 6'3" and could throw a baseball 97 miles an hour. So I was a pitcher too in high school, but I was a shortstop because I was a hitter. And I wanted to hit at the upper levels or college or pro or whatever, the next level.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really concentrate on pitching. I wanted to be a hitter, so I had to play a field of position, and I was playing shortstop. It's kind of natural. It's like Mahomes and these guys that play quarterback. Probably a lot of them played shortstop or middle infield and stuff. I know Russell Wilson played second base in the minor leagues, and Jameis Winston was an actual pitcher for Florida State. So a lot of these two sport guys, they didn't get a chance to do them both in the pros, but going back to high school, I just had a unique experience with my dad starting a school. They were able to get some kids in and start a weight program, and we had NFL coaches around. I mean, my next door neighbor was Craig Bradshaw, who's Terry Bradshaw's brother. Well, Craig played 7 years in the National Football League. No one thinks about Craig Bradshaw. He played for the Oilers back in the day, but of course Terry and Craig were very close to us. They both went to our church. Terry would come over and we'd throw long toss and stuff. And I was, he had won 4 Super Bowls. And so, and this is in Little Shreveport, and so I asked Terry one day, this is a good story you'll love, but I asked Terry one day, how'd you get such a strong arm? And I was a little kid, and he's like, son, because I throw a lot, and so what did I do? I just said, I'm going to go throw a lot. So I threw every day, all day, and there's nothing else to do in Shreveport. So I don't have the beach, or I'm not, I wasn't skateboarding, or my dad would have knocked me out, but growing up in California or Florida would be much different because you have a lot of other things going on, set per se. In Louisiana and Texas, not that much. You better bring it in football, or you better be smart in business or in life to go places. And so I just said I'm gonna use my right arm, and that helped me with baseball and football. But the main thing was my dad and Denny really concentrating on me and building those teams up, and it was a perfect situation for me. And we ended up breaking records and winning titles, and that was kind of the beginning to this unbelievable run that
Mhm.
Evangel Christian was on, and they won like 14 state titles. A national title was played the first ever nationally televised high school football game on ESPN ever against De La Salle when they were in their streak with Lattiser and Concord in California. I mean, so a lot came right after me, but we were able to win the first state championship in the Superdome, and I was able to break a lot of records in football and a 4-time All-State shortstop, and I could hit. So that elevated me, at a young level.
That's an amazing story because, starting a program from scratch and being able to be successful that early with a program that you're basically starting from the ground up. I'm really interested to hear more about that you guys were the first team to really start using that wristband with all the plays on it. How did that come about? I'm just curious about that because you must be like in what, 14, 15, 16 years old, and you've got to learn how to like manage the game off of that
Yeah.
wrist because you guys are playing, no huddle offense, and so you're just looking at the wristband, all the plays there, understanding like what's coming next? Or did you
Yeah.
have to like call audibles based on what you saw at the I mean, you're learning a lot of football IQ at a young age.
Yeah, they were definitely ahead of the game in terms of schematics from a passing game standpoint. And I remember even guys like Hal Mummy, legendary coach, Steve Spurrier, Bowden, they would all come in and recruit, but then they'd also sit down and talk to Denny and my dad, who orchestrated this offense, because we were just doing stuff that no one had ever done. And Spurrier actually tried this 7 to 9 yard shotgun that we did. And the reason we got in that shotgun is because that deep shotgun, it almost looks like a semi punt formation. If you ever watch old film, you ain't gonna believe it. Evangel's still running it, so it's infamous in the South, but people all over the country wouldn't really know it unless they follow high school football. But we had the reason we did that in the beginning and went to that spread deep shotgun, no huddle wristband deal was because our O line was small. And I had to be so far away from the line, and we would run timing routes based on how deep I was in the gun and their route running. And it was just a number systems. I had a lot of stuff on my wristband, but it was all numbers. And so we were on a numbers chart. Like the West Coast is called so different, like the West Coast offense and Bill Walsh, who started all that, it's called so different. So it's very wordy. We were more number oriented, like Bruce Arians, who I played for later in life. He's a number oriented guy too. So a 5 might be an outside comeback, or a 9 is a go, a 0 is a hitch. And we would just call it across the board from left to right. So if we had 4 receivers in a back, it'd be like 9 9 9 9, a swing or something like that. That would be all go, right? And we'd read the safeties, and we'd have a hash read by one of the inside receivers based on where we're at on the field. I mean, it was just easy. It'd be 44-44. We were going to run 4 curls, right, with a check down over the ball. So I could run it. I could run it in my sleep because I knew those numbers 0 through 9, right?
Right.
And then I could call them across the board. So a 7 was a corner route, so I'd just go 0-7-7-0, where it's a hitch corner. So that's smash on both sides, and then a check over the ball. So I'd be 0-7-7-0, a check, and we would just run it. But no high school kids on the other side of the ball knew anything about numbers or nothing back then. So it would throw them for a loop, and then I could dummy them too. We could dummy numbers and stuff too, and act like we're calling it, and it'd be a completely different thing. But we did a lot of direct snaps to an up back as well, which was pretty cool in our system. If they were high rushing because I was so deep and go wide, they would just direct snap it to the tailback, and I'd fake it, and he'd go right up the middle. So we would there were some wrinkles in there, some screens and gadgets too, or we could get the ball out if we needed to, because they would just pin their ears and I rush from 9 yards. Well, that they'd be worn out by the 40th, 50th time they were doing it, because we throw that many times in a game. So even the playing field on some teams that were much better and bigger than us, and we had a chance at least in the beginning.
Well, that's really fascinating. I think also for this audience, just to hear you talk about the game of football and how strategic it is, I don't think people, even at the casual fan level, know all the intricate detail that goes into playing the game.
There's so much goes into football; it's unbelievable. Go ask a quarterback that's been in the NFL for a long time. I mean, you watch more film than you're actually on the field, and that's what fans don't understand is, you spend 6 or 7 hours a day during a prep week for a game. It's like prepping for a midterm test, and then the next week it's another one and another one. So you're really in the film room even more than on the field. You got to get off your feet. You can't practice all day every day.
I'm going to bet that because you were a good hitter, it kind of put you on a different course. Because I remember interviewing Ted Williams for the All Century team. This is back in 1999. We're in the green room in Fenway, and as part of that, we had pulled interviews from the MLB library where he talks about, you're a high school player. You might be a great fielder. You might have a couple of the tools. You might be a fast runner. But once you start to get to the higher level and you can't hit, and I turn to my son, it's like, maybe it's time we go start playing more golf.
Because it's that hard.
Because it's that hard, because he's like saying, if you can run, you can throw, you can catch, but if you can't hit, that's the most important thing in Major League Baseball. And it sounds like that is you were a football star, but it sounds like, talk to me a little bit about, your baseball experience in high school and, your natural skill of being able to hit.
Yeah, I had an amazing coach, actually, a guy named Rami Kujan, and he was a shortstop, played AAA, was at Arizona State with Bonds, all Pac-10 back in the day. He was a big leaguer, but never made it because he had a foot injury in AAA, and he kind of he got released and after that. But he came straight to Evangel to coach our high school team. And I got super lucky because he was a shortstop, right? And he had played in the minors, and I'm 15 years old, right? And he's wanting to get out there and take grounders with me and show me how it's done. So I had like two eyes on Rami all the time, because he would take BP with me. Show me how to take BP. And he was just coming out of AAA. He was probably trying to get back in the league,
Mm.
right? At the beginning of that scenario. And so I just watched him really close. But one of the things a couple things, couple nuggets. My dad always said what you were just talking about, like, you got to be a complete player. Like, you can't be a you can't be a two tool player. You got to be able to hit, run, throw, field your position, hit for power, hit for average. You got to be all of it to be a top. Because I'm like, my goal was to play for the Yankees one day. When I was 8 years old, that's all I thought about was Don Mattingly and Dave Winfield. So my dad was like, "You want to make the big leagues, you can't just be a two-tool player." So it was always like, work on everything. Don't just work on hitting, because a lot of the kids, all they want to do is hit. But what Ted Williams is saying is that's the most valuable tool of all the tools. Like, you got to have them all to get there. But once you get there, you better be able to hit, or you won't be there long. No matter if your tool sets are great in other ways, you can't hit 057 and be in the big leagues. You know what I'm saying? Even though
Yeah.
you could field your position at shortstop or wherever, at center field or catcher. Catcher's the hardest position, so you probably don't have to hit as well there average wise, because such a workload. But there's, Cal Raleigh this year is just doing things we've never seen before, which is unbelievable. But going back to Rami, is I had my eyes on Rami all the time, and he taught me how to hit BP, how to make the most of it, how to not waste time, how to be efficient in the field with my feet and my hands, and how to look like a big leaguer or a professional player at a young age. Like, we were playing high school teams. I'm sure those coaches had no clue how to tell their kids how to look or how to be. Rami would be like, all right, there's rhythm to this, like pre-pitch. When you're a kid, I'm just looking at everything he does, and he'd get out there and show me, and then we would play inter squad, and he would play shortstop on the other team, and he'd pick the inter squad team, and I would pick the other one.
Uh-huh.
So we got really, really close in high school, and I was like probably like his little guinea pig, and but I was athletic enough, and he knew I was getting offers when I was a sophomore in baseball and football, but so he knew that I was going to have a real chance to play some major college stuff. And so I think he just sucked all his time and energy into me, which was unbelievable at that point in my life.
You were heavily recruited for both college football and college baseball and Major League Baseball. So why did you ultimately choose baseball with the Florida Marlins out of high school instead of going straight to LSU to play football?
Well, yeah, baseball was something that as a little kid, was my favorite sport. Freaking Little League baseball, nothing better in the world, for any kid probably. But for me, man, I would cry if it rained. You don't get that many games. Now kids play 80 games in the summer. We used to play like 18, right?
Right.
12, so it just meant everything to me. So growing up as like football became an equal by the time I was a senior, but I was a baseball lover since I was little, not football. My senior year, I decided to go to LSU. I decided to sign with LSU because their baseball program and Skip Bergman had just won a national championship, and it was the thing. It was a big deal in Louisiana and LSU baseball. And my really good friend was Todd Walker, who you
Mhm.
probably know, played
Mhm.
second base for the Red Sox Twins. He was actually in my draft, but he was having a phenomenal college career at LSU, and he's now a Hall of Fame college, baseball Hall of Fame guy. But him and I were really, really, really close when I was younger, and I just watched him at LSU, and I'm like, I want to be LSU baseball guy. So I ended up signing with LSU probably more because of baseball than football and Skip Bergman. Football wasn't in a great place. They were a 500 type of team. I mean, it wasn't, they weren't world beaters at that point. Saban hadn't gotten there yet. So I wanted to go to LSU bad, but it was more for baseball. But my senior year, when I got drafted as high in the first round as I did by a new franchise, and Wayne Huizinga, who was one of the wealthiest owners, in Major League Baseball back when he was alive and owning the Marlins, I knew that I could demand a signing bonus because I had the football leverage to go to LSU and play football. And I was the top recruit in the country. Once I got drafted and he came with that signing bonus, I was like, baseball's something I want to do just as much as football. So I got to go try this. I'm a first rounder. I'm getting paid more than anybody's ever gotten paid to go in the amateur draft, a signing bonus. And so that was my deciding factor, was if he gives me more than anybody's ever got, how can you turn it down? And
Yeah.
that's where I was. That's really where we were at. And Jeff Morad, who was my agent with Lee Steinberg and Jeff Morad, and they were football and baseball agency in California. That's the conversation me, Jeff, and my dad had, was if they give us more than anybody's ever gotten, how can you say no? And you got to go. I mean, you're the top, top, top. And so that was where I was then. That money's changed so much since then.
Yeah.
That was 1994. But that's how it all went down. Was I got drafted high enough to forego football in the beginning and sign a no football clause and go play for the Marlins. And they were a new franchise, so I knew I would have some opportunity to go up the ladder, whether I was a world beater or not. I was like, I'll still be able to move up the ladder if I'm half decent, or if I play good defense, or if I hit home runs or drive in runs. I knew I was going to move up because of the signing bonus and where I was drafted, and there was nobody in the minors above me.
Right. Well, in honor of this part of the conversation, I'm going to switch hats.
I love the old Marlins, baby. That is awesome.
I'm gonna
You remind me of one of our old catchers, Greg Zahn from Canada, man. You look like him in that hat. I got to show him the picture.
All right, I'm gonna find a photo of him now. That's so funny. Your time with the Marlins, you won. You didn't make it. You did make it up to the big leagues. You won a World Series ring as part of that '97 World Championship team. But after years with the Marlins, what brought you back to LSU to play quarterback?
Well, yeah, 4 years after I'd gone through the Marlins organization, Huizinga sold the team to John Henry. John Henry and Dombrowski at the time was the GM. We went back to them. My brother was a receiver at LSU, so I've got three younger brothers. I'm the oldest. my second brother, Abram, he was at LSU and he was kicking butt at receiver. He started as a freshman, had 60 something catches. And this was 98. So I wanted to play with my brother so bad. So in the off season, I'm like, I'm going to go and play football. Well, their Marlins are like, nah, yeah, no, yeah, you're playing baseball or you're done. Don Henry, when he bought the team, he said, we're going to start you in AAA in 99. I had gotten hurt. I started opening day in 98 for the Marlins and I'd gotten hurt and they were going to start me in AAA in 99 because I was just coming off an injury. They said, we're probably going to start you in AAA. And I'm like, I'm going to go back play football at LSU with my brother. So I walk into Jerry DiNardo was the head coach at LSU at the time. And I walked in there and go, Coach, I'm here. I want to play. And he's like, oh God, what am I going to do with you? They LSU faithful wanted me there bad. Like I'd gone to play baseball and chose baseball over LSU, but I was the number one recruit they'd ever had, ever at that point. And I think me and Leonard Fournette are the only two first, number one players to ever sign with LSU. So they were, they wanted me, but they didn't really know what to do with me because I was coming from pro baseball and I wasn't come from high school at that point. So I was really like a walk on, at the beginning. So I really went back to play with my brother to see if I liked football because it was always in the back of my mind
Right.
that I liked football just as much. And so I was like, I'm going to go do that. And the first year we were bad. We went like 4-7 and DiNardo gets fired. And then they hire Nick Saban. And that changed LSU for forever. But and I got a chance to kind of restart and recalibrate with him and Jimbo Fisher as my offensive coordinator. But I mean, I know that's probably another answer to another question. But playing for Saban the next year was a whole lot better than playing for DiNardo the year before, and it got us to where we needed to go.
Because I know your story, there's two parts. I'm going to ask you two questions that kind of fit into what we're talking about. And the first thing is your injury, because I think if you did not have that injury on your catching hand, where it kind of tore the ligament in your thumb, that's
Yep,
it's kind of tough to heal. You probably still would have been playing baseball, I think, and maybe you can
probably.
tell us a little bit about that as well. But then the second part of that question is when you went back to LSU, you went back as a considered older athlete. Like today, you got guys like Bo Nix who are now playing for the Broncos and Stetson Bennett who played for the Bulldogs. I mean, they left college at 25. They said they're older quarterbacks, but when you came back to LSU, then the idea of a older, early 20s starting quarterback, that was also kind of new, right? Can you talk about those two things first? That injury that kind of pivoted your mindset, and then starting at LSU as an older
Sure.
student.
Yeah, Jim Leland was the manager at the time in '98 when I hurt myself, and he really believed in me. And I probably wasn't ready from a hitter standpoint to be in the big leagues full time, but defensively I was. And he's like, "You're the greatest third baseman." He instilled confidence in me. You're the greatest third baseman defensively I've ever seen. You and Ken Caminiti, and you can do this, right? And so he's building me up. And I had a good spring training. I hit 3 something in spring training, and I'm like, I won the job out of camp, which was awesome. And they hadn't gone and got a new, free agent or anything to replace, to buy time till I was ready. And he goes, "We're just gonna let you go." And I'm like, "Sweet." And then like 3 weeks in the season, I have the injury, and Jeremy Burnett slides over my glove hand. You nailed it, and I messed my thumb up, and I had to go back, back to the spring training site to rehab for 5 months. I tried to play at the end of the year in Charlotte, get some at bats, and man, it was terrible. And I was just like, I was just kind of bumming at the time. I'm like, man, okay, well, I finally get the big leagues, hurt my hand, and now I'm struggling in AAA. And then they call me and say you're going to be back in AAA. So that's why, you know, you're right. If I wouldn't have got hurt, who knows what would have happened in '98? I might have played well enough to keep my job forever. I don't know at third base. I don't know. Sports is crazy like that.
Yeah, for
It's like
sure.
why did Joe Burrow get hurt this week? He's out a whole nother year. It's crazy how sports work. But then the second half of that is going back to school after 4.5 years of baseball. I had a different perspective on life. There's no doubt about it. I had been around, traveled with the big league team all over the place, been on the World Series in the locker room. I'd done some stuff that most college kids would never even think of dreaming about, right? In terms of football guys, because I was on the baseball side, completely different worlds, and had a little money and had a little whatever you want to call it, sports fame at the time, as a kid. And so it was different going back to class. But my brother being there helped because we lived right next to each other in two apartments and we would go everywhere together. And so he would introduce me to most of the guys on the team. And it was a little easier. If I was just doing that on my own, it probably would have been a little tougher I'm talking about the very beginning, the first month
Right.
of going back. And so news cameras would follow us around to class because I was out of my contract and back. So there was a lot going on. Then I got to try to go win the quarterback job, and that was serious to me. I could not I couldn't go back to LSU and not win a quarterback job and just that's not going to serve any good. So
Right.
for me, so I'm like, I got to go win this thing. So man, I got my head down. I went from like 240 to 210 in a month and a half. I had Jason's Deli salads every day, and that's all I did was eat Jason's Deli salad with tomatoes and cucumbers and stuff. And anyways, I lost a bunch of weight, started running with the team, and that's a whole different level of fitness, right? In terms of baseball and football, like baseball, train and you play every day, and it's more like a monotonous thing, right? You
Right.
just kind of
More muscular.
Yes, you're right. It's like getting your it's just, it's a very repeatable day. It's Groundhog Day. I mean, football is like we're in there freaking running at 5:30 in the morning, running hundreds, sprinting and doing bag drills and all this stuff. I'm like, holy cow. But it got me in shape to where I could go and compete and really win. Wearing the pads and all that was so different, but the school part was really different. I mean, even going to class with all these young guys that were 19 coming out of high school, I was back in class and walking around and with the book bag. I'm like, what is this, dude? It was terrible. It was terrible, but I knew I had to get on that field on Saturdays, and that drove me just every day. I was like, put your head down, go to school, freaking go win the job. That's all you can try to do. And so I did, but it was eventful in the beginning because I did not like the school and going back.
Yeah, you were an adult in the real world and you had to go back. It's like, I do want to kind of change subjects a little bit, but before I do, you are one of the very few athletes who have played both professional baseball and NFL football. So what does that dual journey mean to you now, looking back on what you went through?
Man, that's a great question. It's put me in circles I would have originally ever been in, being in one or none, right? I mean, I've got my group of friends in football, got my group of friends in baseball. It's allowed me to have more friendships. And I think that's been awesome because like there's only one out of 10 million that actually make unbelievable money to where you never have to work again, like the Soto money, right? Or
Yeah.
the judge money and all these guys, right? So it's like even 99.9% of the professional athletes that actually are professional and actually are signed contracts and have played, they still got to do something after sports. And this has allowed me to be in some unreal circles. More circles are, evolving around me. And I think that's what is probably the most beneficial of what I tried to do. I love all the experiences. I love all the people in stadiums and stuff that are like, how was Coors Field or whatever, and then they can ask me how's Raven playing against the Ravens. You know what I mean? Not many people can answer those two, right? In the same, or whatever. How's Tiger Stadium or LSU or
Sure.
how's playing in the swamp? I mean, there's a lot of fun that goes into conversation about it. Like, yeah, I wish I would have been a Hall of Famer in one, and I probably should have stayed in one, but my dumb ass wanted to go do two. So I mean, I think, but it has allowed me to be a little bit more of who I am, and I mean, obviously that's who I was because I chose it and did it right. So like, just use that and try to parlay it to the best of your ability, but there's so many good memories. Yeah, I'd love to have been a Hall of Fame baseball player, but I would have never experienced playing for Nick Saban or going to the swamp and playing against Spurrier or, being in the NFL. And there's just a lot of different things that I've life experiences that I've had that are invaluable. So that's the way I look at it.
That's great. That's terrific. I'm sure your experiences have just been just something we all dream about, having the ability to do both. So I want to fast forward again to today. We're right in the thick of the MLB postseason race. College football is underway. The NFL just kicked off. Because of your background, you can talk about all these things as an expert. So I want to get your perspective on what's happening now. So I'm going to wear the hat for one more question. And so the MLB postseason, who do you see as the favorites this year and why?
Well, I do watch some of it. I watch more highlights than I do is sit and watch games because we're busy. But, I'm a Dodger fan, probably first because I love Otani. I've been following him since he came to play in major leagues. So I watched the Dodgers. I spent a lot of my adult life in Los Angeles and Orange County, California. So when he was with the Angels, I was watching him then. I love that he's the dual threat guy pitching. It reminds me a little bit of myself. I know he's just super, super duper phenomenal and maybe the best baseball player we've ever seen all around. So I just really love him. And then I love Judge and the Yankees. They were always my childhood favorite teams. Those are the two teams that I follow. And I think those are the two most talented teams. I think Toronto is playing unbelievable. So, I watch San Diego. The Padres are good. I mean, there's some great storylines coming down the pipe here. The Yankees need to get a little bit more consistency. I know they win a lot, but then they'll go on some bad runs. They don't hit well against good pitching. But I really root for the Dodgers probably because of Otani, and then I like the Yankees. And then when you get that type of series, it's just monstrous. So that's where I like. That's what I would like to see. And then the story with Cal Raleigh, we touched on it a second ago, with him hitting 50-something home runs as a switch hitting catcher. It's unbelievable. So these guys there's just some unbelievable stuff that we're seeing that we've never seen before with the Otani stuff and Judge's home runs. And I mean, those three right there are just monster storylines.
Yeah, I know a lot when the postseason starts. It's which team is gets on a roll and who gets hot. But any predictions for World Series champion this year? Want
Well,
to make
I'd have to go
make
with
a
the
Bula bet?
Dodgers. I'll make a Bula bet that the Dodgers win it all. I mean, you got to ride with the Dodgers. I think they're the most talented team overall. You're right. It's who's hitting at the end, but you've got to have some star power and have those guys hit. Because they're so great. If your stars hit at the end, you're going to win. If they don't, you're not. And I think that's been the case for years and years and years. Pitching wins championships, like defense in the NFL. Defense wins championships a lot of times. That's why we see the cream always rise to the top, and a lot of times it's pitching and defense, not just the hitting. So it's timely hitting and good pitching.
Right, those things never change. Just keep it simple.
Yeah,
Right, right.
exactly.
So I'm gonna switch hats now. Hold on. All right, we're done talking about
Uh,
baseball.
I can't wait.
Right. See. All right. Uh, now we're going to move over to college football. This is going to be the first few weeks have already started. Your LSU Tigers are looking good, but which programs look like genuine contenders for the CFP playoffs this year?
I'll give you I've been talking football a lot. So Ohio State, of course, is defending national champions. They've got a new quarterback, but he looks great. They've got a great receiving core, of course, with Smith. He's unbelievable. He would be the first pick of the draft if he could come out this year, and he's still got a whole nother year. So and they just got such a well-rounded team. So in Georgia, you're an Atlanta guy, so you understand the
I'm just going to say go Dogs because I went to
yeah.
Georgia. So all right.
But I do like George. I do love Kirby. So in their resume, his resume speaks for itself. So I think Ohio State and Georgia are the two powerhouses. I think Miami's come on the scene like crazy with Carson back, and I think LSU's right there knocking on their heels. Now, I really thought Texas was going to be better. Texas has not played well. I thought Clemson was going to be really, really good this year, and with upperclassmen, they haven't played well. So I think our schedule favors us. We do have to go to Bama, but we don't play Georgia or Texas in the regular season. And I think Georgia's the kind of the toughest team in the SEC. And so I wouldn't want to have to go through Georgia. I know Texas has to go to Georgia, which will be tough.
Yeah. So listen, I like Gunnar Stockton. I think he's earned his right to prove to lead the team. I also like Carson Beck.
I didn't like him until this year because I didn't like what happened at Georgia and some of the stuff I'd heard. But
I
man,
agree.
he's really playing well, and he looks like he's in a perfect spot for himself. So I like it.
I tell you, I am following two teams in college football religiously this season, and it's Georgia and Miami. Would I like to have Carson back on Georgia? Yes, but, Gunnar has earned his spot, and I think it was a perfect trade because, what Beck is doing in Miami has just made it a really exciting thing for fans to watch those games.
I agree. I think the one other team that has a real chance, outside chance, is Texas A&M. I think they're playing really good and they're strong, man. And so they they have a little tougher schedule, road schedule in the SEC. But those teams are all those teams could win it all. That's the thing is, who's playing the best at the end. And but Georgia would be my favorite. I think if I
Yeah.
had to bet, if I had to bet my life on it, I think Georgia and Ohio State in the top two. But we'll see.
Yeah, but, before I move on, just one thing. One of my best friends lives out in LA. He went to Texas. His name is Jared Hoffman, and, he has forbid me from mentioning that other Texas team. So
You can't talk about them.
I can't
You
even
don't know
talk
nothing
about him. I
about
can't
them.
even mention their name. He will not speak to me. So we'll just move on from there. But that's what
You're definitely not going to be the 12th man.
exactly.
That's
So,
awesome.
one of the biggest changes since your playing days is how fans actually consume sports. And you kind of hinted on it before when you were talking about baseball, because you're so busy that you really only have time to watch highlights. So, back then and back in our day, it was religiously watching Sports Center to see highlights every day and every night. Today, it's highlights on your phone seconds later after a big event happens. So back in your playing days, athletes relied mostly on traditional media for exposure. Today, players control their own narratives through social platforms and short form content. What opportunities do you see in that shift for today's players?
Well, branding, you just said it, creating your own brand, sending out your message, right? It's like we always had to wait for a reporter to come ask us something and it was their narrative, right? And now we have such a platform, or these guys do, that they can create more of a character for themselves. And I think that's unique. It started probably 10 years ago. Companies like yours is really helping kind of matters on what these players see so much now, right? We know, even the high schoolers know the other high school superstars in different parts of the country. Like, we didn't know that. Like, I didn't know who Tiger Woods was. I was up for a Dial Award, which was the high school sports athlete of the year. It's like the high school Heisman back in 1994. And and I was a finalist. It was me and a girl and Tiger. I didn't even know who Tiger was, right? And I'm like, well, I'll win this thing because I was an All American in two sports, right?
Right.
And then Tiger wins the thing. I'm like, who is Tiger Woods? You know what I'm saying? So we just didn't know what we didn't know, right? Every football game wasn't on TV. There wasn't the Sunday ticket. There was not all this that we could watch. So I think players have a real advantage now from a perspective of learning and seeing and doing like the pros are doing, or being like them or mimicking them. Or we used to, like, I used to try to be Don Mattingly or Will Clark or Griffey, back in the day. Those are the only I didn't know we had the Cubs and the Braves on TV, and I had to wait for like Saturday baseball, baseball tonight, highlights. And I think now it's all there. And then you can create your own brand, and which is, it's like Huddle, right? For high school athletes now is so big because all these players have all their stuff on Huddle, and it's every sport, and it's female, and it's everywhere, it's everything everywhere. So it's like I can just pull up a kid's Huddle. He might be a sophomore offensive tackle in Detroit, at a high school. Like, I can watch him. You know what I'm saying? We didn't have all that. So it's like the comparables are there, right? And the opportunity with social to brand yourself and to access more media because everybody's filming something. Like, my high school's doing a series, God Family Football. You could watch it right now. It's like on the third season or something, and watch there's the story of my high school right there, right? So there's just so much more out there nowadays. But thanks to companies like yours and yourself that have advanced us so much. But I think social media too is, in a lot of ways, it's bad. If Jordan and Barkley and all those guys had social media back in the day, shoot, they were living differently, and so you got to kind of hide yourself a little bit too, because it's scary. You want to kind of have a private life if you're a superstar, but if you're a high school kid trying to create a brand, players are able to utilize their strengths and stuff now that we didn't have. I wish I'd have had NIL too back when I was
Oh,
coming
yeah.
out of high school. I think I'd have made 10 million like the Underwood did at Michigan. I'm like, that's crazy. It's crazy.
It is crazy to think how quickly things have changed. So, do you think like personal highlight reels and behind the scenes content for building athlete brands and growing fan loyalty are super important? It's like it's part of the deal now.
Yeah, and kids, parents will ask me, "How do I promote my kid?" Well, I don't like self promotion, but you kind of have to do some of it because if your high school coach isn't willing to put something together for you or to push you to universities, how else are you going to get found? Because everybody else is pushing content left and right. So it's like you got to find someone. You either got to be so good that people come to you, you're 5 star, you're just so dang good. Or if you're like that 3 star, man, you got to push yourself a little bit out there. And that's the difference between back when I was playing in high school and now. It's like these kids have to promote. And coaches, they getting all these films from all these kids. They're probably looking at it and throwing it out. You know what I'm saying? They're
Yeah.
just looking at the scouting rankings and they don't care. But if you don't do it, how would you ever get seen? So you're just hoping somebody looks at it and goes, dude, the guy can play. I like him. You know what I'm saying? Or make a call to this buddy in D2 that's a coach going, I got a quarterback for you. We can't sign him, but you could, so you just gotta kind of play the game. Josh Allen, he didn't have any offers. He sent his tape out to everybody. No one wanted him. Think about that. I think he's the John Elway of today's generation, and he didn't even have a chance, really. He might not have had a chance to play college football. Wyoming didn't sign him. And so I think it's the high school coach's job to do it, but a lot of high school football coaches or coaches in general, they're like, my job is to win games and coach. Like, my job isn't to like promote and send recruiting tapes out and all that. I don't get paid for that. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
you almost want to play for a coach that college coaches know or that cares about his kids because man, it's tough to get a opportunity if your coach is not promoting you as a player he thinks can go to the next level.
Right, right. And do you see is there a moment from your career that you wish had been captured the way today's fans experience sports? And I mean, instantly goes globally and it's personalized.
Yeah, my senior year of high school, yeah, I would have loved to had that. I have some old films and tape because Evangel did a decent job of it. We were self promoting the heck out of it because we were trying to blow the school up, and do some things. So we had a media department that was good. But man, if that was on Netflix, it'd be fun to watch because we did some stuff that no one else was doing. No, it should be a movie, and I'm not saying that because I was in it. I'm saying that because it was a powerful, packed year, and from the way we did it, from coming from scratch to nothing to a state title in the Superdome, and at the end of the game, they put me in at safety, and I picked the ball off to win the state title game, and then
No way.
yeah, so I was quarterback, but I went in at defense. I mean, it's not just that. It's like everything that happened that year and the stuff that we went through and the way we were doing it. We broke national records and it's crazy. I mean, we had like Paterno coming to our games and Bowden coming to our games and Spurrier and all these guys on the sidelines. Bill Walsh came to my house. My whole neighborhood was like, "Holy cow, Bill Walsh is here!" I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, it's stuff like that I wish, I had captured that I got nothing from other than just stories. And there's some storylines there that are just awesome. I wish I'd had that senior year on film the way you guys could do it.
Yeah, it's we do too. That would have been amazing because I've just seen some of your highlights. So it's yeah. So speaking of that kind of connecting to that answer, do you see a difference of how the media covers MLB and NFL? And if so, what are they? And to that point, is there a moment in your career, I guess your college or professional career on the field, you glad wasn't captured instantly and seen worldwide?
Yeah, I'm sure every time I threw an interception, I wish the cameras would have been looking the other way. I think the NFL does an unbelievable job of baseball too. I think nowadays it's like they don't miss anything. I can see everything. And so I think that it's amazing how where we've gotten with all that and it has nothing to do with me. It has a lot to do with guys like you. But I think just the coverage is unbelievable. And so I can turn on my phone, I can scroll through anything, I can see everything. Like it's crazy. And I can study, even like I watch golf now and I study golf swings. And it's like we didn't have any of that technology back then that has advanced so much. And like as a hitter, I would tell young kids, man, to go back into the archives and watch hitters like Gary Sheffield or a Bonds or like Chipper Jones or Tony Gwynn or Pete Rose or Ted Williams, and they can actually go back and watch this footage. So yeah, we had the footage then, but the way that you can watch it now and on your phone and all that has made it so awesome. So I think they do a great job with it. The leagues do a great job with it. I know the SEC does a great job with it. I mean, we have our own network, but I love all the coverage because you can catch up so fast.
Yeah, and I kind of make the argument with people that people are saying that you have all these live games and then all these highlights that are available. Is it going to take away from people watching the live games? And
I think it adds to it because it develops fans, right, at a different level of engagement. So I think it adds to it. It makes me want to be a fan. Like if I can go and watch the Greek Freak, take three dribbles on a highlight, dunk it from the free throw or from the 3-point line, dude. Next time he's on TV, I want to watch it. I want to watch Wemby in action. You know what I'm saying? Like I think so. All that stuff plays into fans wanting to be more loyal to watch the games and follow their favorite players.
what we like to say is that highlights are kind of like the top of the funnel that gets you interested in about that player or about that sport or about that league or about that team. And I kind of have like firsthand experience because when we were building out MLB.com, especially at baseball, which is a very traditional sport at the time, it's done a great job of changing things up lately. But people were really concerned that it was going to eat into the existing pie. Like the broadcast department was going like, oh my gosh, if we start MLB.com, it's going to take away from what we already have. And what it did was, no, it didn't eat into the existing pie. It made the pie bigger.
Yeah, I could see that big time.
And the same thing for MLB Network. It did not eat into the broadcasters, or it just made the pie bigger and invited more people in. So I totally agree that the highlights is really increasing fan engagement, and you had some perfect examples of how that's doing that for you. So, but speaking of technology and fan engagement, I want to talk about what you're now building with Bula. You said you've been working on it for several years now, but tell us about Bula and what inspired you to start it.
Yeah, my brother and I came up with the idea we wanted to do a social peer-to-peer gambling app like no one's ever done before. So we all know the brick and mortar places. We all know, Vegas and odds and sports gambling. We wanted to start in a skill-based environment, giving everybody a chance to bet on themselves or bet their buddies anytime, anywhere on anything. So it's taking all the everyday gambling moments in life and putting them in like a TikTok setting, and memorializing a bet with a banking capability. So we say or TikTok and Venmo combined. So the money goes in escrow. So I can say you can't get the girl's number at the bar for $20. You can't. We always use that one because it's funny, but it could be a golf game. I bet you won't shoot under 90 tomorrow for $100. Well, everybody that's a friend with you sees that ticket that you create, and you create video off that ticket. So there's content built off of it. But it's truly a skill based gambling app, right? So it can be video games. I bet you I can beat you in Madden or whatever. And then the data's kept, the wins and losses are kept, the money's kept, of course, your records kept. So it's just creating a chance. It's really we're trying to create an opportunity for us to get to sports gambling through a partnership down the road, but we've got to build up the skill based side like frat challenges and corporate challenges and the ice bucket challenge, charity challenge. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we could do off of this app, where we could challenge the public. We could have a lot of fun with this thing, but we're starting in a peer-to-peer 1v1. I could bet all my buddies I could outplay them in a round of golf today or whatever, shoot lower than they am, and everybody's money goes into escrow, and then the winner gets the money. You create your own odds. So there is no Vegas line, right? You create
Right.
your own odds. So it could be, I bet you can't make 7 out of 10 free throws for $20. It's just it could be any bet, any gambling moment in life that you could create, and you can make money off of it. So monetize it, right? There's a winner and a loser. And Bula means wishing you luck or life. It's Fijian. And we've got really good investors and people around us, guys that have ushered in online gaming. We want to SDK into video gaming systems so you can create bets about clicking on the Bula guy in a PlayStation game, or Golf Genius, the handicapping system in golf that's worldwide. I think those are the things that we're wanting to get to. It's just we've got to start. We got to come in the side door with the skill based peer to peer 101, and we've got compliance in 46 states. I mentioned that earlier off the air. Those are the things that we've had to make sure that we were ready for and okay for, for building this thing out. So we're launching here golf and influencer stuff. The golf industries is going like crazy. We're going to do partnerships with golf brands and giveaways and all kinds of fun stuff. So hopefully you'll start seeing a lot more of Bula, and it won't just be me on social media doing content with my brother.
But you see, you basically you're building like this experience for Bula to tie in the way sports fans consume highlights and engage today.
Yes, like even in stadium engagement, right? So they always do those contests, and guys will run around the outfield. It's do competitions on the big board with the where's the ball on the cup and all that stuff. Like I think we can take that to a whole nother level with fan engagement, because now we can go in stadiums and we can create those sports gambling moments in a split second, right, between buddies. So you can be sitting up there with your buddy, eating a hot dog, having a beer, watching the Yankee game. Well, you could start. Well, what's the next pitch going to be? And you can bet right there live and create your own odds, right? You could do 2-1 on the next ball being hit in the air or on the ground. I mean, it can be absolutely anything. Is a home run going to be hit in this inning? I'll give you 5-1 odds on 100. It could be absolutely anything, but it is fan engagement oriented. That's where we want to go.
Yeah, so it's really to enhance the fan experience on a larger
Yeah.
level.
And there's no juice, so it's transaction fees only. So it's 100 to 100, right? But we're gonna take a transaction fee from the winner, so you'd probably get 96.50. You know what I'm saying? So, but you're not losing 110, so there's no juice. So that's another tagline: is bet on yourself, no juice. We've got all these taglines that no one's ever figured out, and we know peer to peer gambling is the future.
Well, I have a bunch of other questions. I know we've gone over. I think I could talk to you for at least another hour or two, but this has just been fantastic. Again, just your unique path from baseball and football to your take on today's game and sports and what you're building with Bula. It's been great. Thanks for joining me today. I can't believe we've kind of crisscrossed each other, and you're back close to New
Where
York,
you're
and I'm
where you yeah, where
yes.
you're at normally.
We'll have
Yeah.
to catch up. But Josh, thank you so much. This has been so awesome. Great to catch up, and I'm sure we'll be doing it soon enough again.
Thanks for having me on, and I really appreciate your friendship, brother. You're the man. Thank you for having me.
You got it. Thanks, Josh.